Hello there. My name is Matthew. I'm a developer on the team which has implemented Java support for the FN platform, which was announced as an open source project by Chad Arimura and Mark Cabbage at yesterday's Java 1 keynote. What I'd like to do right now is talk you through some of the options that the Java support has, and especially some of the features of the testing framework that comes with it. And the reason why I'm doing it as a video rather than writing it all out as a blog is because when I looked through the documentation, it basically said everything that I wanted to already. And rather than recapitulate all that, I decided that it was sensible to kind of walk through, start to finish, a real simple kind of showcase of some of the features. So to start with, you need to get yourself over to FnProject.io, and there's this animated GIF that tells you how to install it and use it, but far easier than reading that and typing it out. You follow the Getting Started link and head down to the shell script install curl pipe to shell, and I've done that already, so I have got the latest FN as of this morning, 046. I've created an empty directory, new Java function, and it is, as you see, it's got an idea directory in it. I'll get rid of that quickly. No, I won't. I'll leave that. I don't want to confuse IntelliJ unnecessarily. So what I do want to do, though, is fninit --runtime equals Java. And this is super quick, and the default you get when you do --runtime is Java 9. If you want Java 8 for some reason, then --runtime equals Java 8 is supported, but the default is 9 now and going forwards. So what have we been given as that has run? We have been given a func.yaml. This is the FnProject metadata file. And then we have also got a extremely straightforward standard Maven project. So that's the default for runtime equals Java is to create a Maven project. We do have plans to support Gradle and possibly some other build tools, but at the moment it's only Maven. So what have we got inside func.yaml? Just all kind of empty and default stuff. And we've got this com example fn hello function handle request. So let's have a look at that quickly. Source main Java com example blah blah hello function handle request. It takes a string as input, returns a string as output. If the string's null or empty, we use world, otherwise use the input and pass that through to a greeting generator, which just returns it straight back. So you can imagine exactly what's going to happen when I type fn run, hello world, brilliant. Echo-n Matthew, pipe that to fn run, hello Matthew. So this is really like unsurprising, simple, straightforward behavior. So the reason I left that .idea project around is because I also have this folder open in IntelliJ, and I didn't want it to throw a wobbly by having all its metadata deleted. So let's have a look at the POM file which you generated. It's pretty short, it's about 60 lines, and there's a compiler plugin, bit of config specifying JDK 9. There's configuration for our bin tray repository where we put our artifacts, and then the artifacts themselves. There's an API jar which is used at runtime, a testing jar in the test scope, and JUnit in the test scope. And any recent version of JUnit should work. Like just pick the latest JUnit 4 and you'll be good. Okay, and we had a look already, didn't we, at the hello function. See if I can make that a bit bigger. There we go. Yeah, exactly as we saw it out there. And the hello test, pick that up as well. That uses this JUnit rule, an FN testing rule. So we create the default one of those, and the FN testing rule lets us do things like creating input events, then run hello function handle a request, remember, from func.yaml, and then get the only result and check that the body is hello world. So on the face of it, that looks a lot like and could easily be done by a simple unit test of this function where you pass in nothing and you get out hello world. We can test the other case of that ternary if we wanted the output to be hello Matthew, like we saw on the command line, give an event with body Matthew. And if we run it, of course, it will run and pass. Oh dear. Right, this happened before, and it's because we just need to rebuild the target directory, which IntelliJ is expecting to exist underneath here, that was deleted by me. So give that another go. Finished? Yes. So now that the target directory is full up of class files, we can run the tests. And this is like standard Maven command line plus IntelliJ kind of interfering with each other sort of stuff. So again, this is like just passing in the string Matthew to this function and getting back hello Matthew. And the real value of this testing rule comes from when you start to use features that are provided for you by the FDK itself. FDK stands for Function Development Kit. I'm sure you've worked out. So, for example, given that these functions are going to be deployed usually at an HTTP endpoint, it's very, very common to throw some JSON at them. So if you imagine some JSON like name, Matthew, and favorite food is sushi today. Imagine that you could send that in, and the reason I put it from a comment and pasting it in there is that IntelliJ does all that clever escaping of the string for me, which is very nice. The hello function doesn't need to do any kind of JSON manipulation itself. All we need to do is define the POJO, the public static class person food, and it's got a string name, string fave food, and then let's generate the getters and setters, get that, set that, set that, so that it can be used just by a default constructor and then calling named setters according to the names of the things here. We don't want to change this, so for now we will just accept a person food here. And now we know this won't be null because you won't be able to coerce a null bit of JSON into one of these person food objects. So person.get name is safe. And if we jump back here and run the test again, hopefully it's going to pass. Hooray! Good. So, excuse me. We're taking advantage of the SDK and its automatic data coercion from JSON into POJOs here. There are other kinds of coercion. I'll talk about them in a bit. The other thing, for example, that you might want to do, though, if you have a function that returns a sort of straightforward JSON data type like a string or a POJO, it's going to be returned as a string or it's going to be serialized JSON if you return a POJO. And any kind of successful execution of your function will be returned with HTTP status code 200. If you crash, you'll see a 500. And those are your only options, unless you want to output event. This is the object which has a bit more configurability and represents the entire kind of scope of things that you can return from the FN platform. So the way we do it is output event. Oh no, not doc finder output. Output event dot from bytes, and let's just grab this string greet. Use that. Stick it up there, and then we'll do from bytes greet dot get bytes in charset, default charset. Brilliant. What's the other thing? Status code, so you can just make up a status code. It'll be passed through as long as it's within the range of valid status codes. And content type, what kind of thing are you, your text plain? So there's how to do that. And we must not forget to return this. Okay, so because we have created the string in the same way and stuck it in the body of the output event, we haven't really changed the contract of what our function's doing in terms of what we have tested so far. So rerunning the same test, there you go, it still works. But now we have the ability to assert more things about the response. For example, the 205 response code result.get status. Still going to work. Right? So you might be interested to also see that if I grab that bit of JSON and echo it to fn run, the behavior is exactly the same, right? But it takes a little bit longer to run because it does a full Maven and Docker build, which isn't necessary just for a simple test like that. So I think if you are going to be doing lots of tests, testing lots of combinations of inputs and outputs, using this is going to be much quicker, and it's also convenient because everyone who programs Java is used to an IDE like this that summarizes your results, and it's very high fidelity representation of what will happen when you run your code in the FN platform as well. So that is like a super brief overview. Like I said at the beginning, if you head over to GitHub and look in FnProject/FDK Java, in the docs testing functions, tells you a lot of the same stuff, right? It's how to use this, and it gives some more examples like stuff you can do. For example, sending multiple events to the same function one after the other. Testing data binding. Remember that JSON serialization as an input and output format is only one option. It's available by default, but you're free to plug in your own. There's documentation on how to do that here, and then there's documentation on how to test it here. Configuration. Perhaps I didn't show you, but it's totally possible to do some initialization inside here with fn configuration annotated function public void do config. And this will be run as necessary in order to set up any private variables, do database connections, this kind of thing. You can see more examples of that in our documentation under configuration. And again, how to test it is under this configuration section. And then it goes on to talk about testing FN flows. FN flow is a topic for another day because we need to explain what it is and how to use it before we can talk about how to test it. So I believe that pretty much wraps up what I was hoping to get through with this video. And I hope it was clear and helpful. And if you have any problems, hit us up on Slack. You can probably find my Twitter. You can certainly raise an issue on GitHub if you feel there's something worth talking about there. And yeah, just get in touch.